Welcome back to another video. So it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, we do a tier list. And I thought, considering one of the NHL's captains was very prominently in the news the last week or the last 4 to 5 days, and Jacob Trouba getting traded, and now one of the teams don't have a captain coming into the season. It was talked about a decent amount how, for the first time in a while, every single team had a captain coming into the season. Now the New York Rangers don't have a captain. So I thought we'd do an updated tier list on every single captain. And this is going to be based on how good of players they are on the ice. I'm not in the locker rooms. I can't measure their captainness, their leadership overall. And I'm not going to be doing Couture and Landeskog, considering those guys have Landeskog has not played since 2022. Couture has played like 6 games last season, and looks like those guys might never play again. Hopefully they end up playing, but that's a serious possibility. It's not right to tier list them based on that. And also Boone Jenner, considering he had major, I think it was like labrum or shoulder surgery, and he hasn't played this season at all. So I'm not going to tier list those guys. So we're going to have 28 guys, those 3 guys, as well as Trouba. We got 28 active captains that are playing this season and have played a significant amount this season. And we're going to start off with Adam Lowry. I'm going to go with the good player. He's about a consistent 40 to 45-ish point, very, very good defensive player. The Winnipeg Jets don't really ask him to do much offensively. I think he potentially could be a 50, 55 point if he played even more. But yeah, just a very, very, not a very good, but a good two-way player, middle sixer. Could definitely fit the role as a second line center. Austin Matthews had a bit of a slow start, then obviously got hurt, then went to like Germany to figure his shit out. But he's still definitely a superstar. This guy had 69 goals last year, and even this year he still has like 8 goals, 8 assists in like 18 games. He's gonna figure it out. He's gonna catch fire. Nick Suzuki, elite, looking like yet another around point per game season. Last year, he really broke out with 33 goals, 44 assists, 77 points. It was great defensively. Not sure he's going to reach those. He might reach those point totals, but the defensive impact maybe hasn't been as good this season. But he's definitely solidified himself as an elite player in the NHL. Quinn Hughes, you also got to go with superstar. I just realized I put all the superstars. Alexander Barkov also is in superstar. Quinn Hughes has definitely solidified himself as a no doubt superstar. He will be in my top 12 players in the MB, top 50, considering the fact this guy won the Norris. Right now, he would personally be my Norris pick. The superstars kind of go without saying. Alexander Barkov as well, after winning the Stanley Cup last season. He is a no doubt top 10 player in the entire NHL Stanley Cup, as well as the Selke, and looks like this year he might win it yet again. Roman Josi, I'm going to go with star. Last year, you could say that he had a superstar level season. I think I probably would have still had him in star. He's a top 6 defenseman in the NHL. He's not even playing this bad. He's definitely not the problem in Nashville right now, but he hasn't been quite as productive. He's still a top 25 player in the NHL, just not quite a top 10 guy or top 15, top 12 guy. Mikael Backlund, I'm going to go with solid mid. The offense really just isn't there compared to prior years. He's still very, very good defensively, but he is more so of like a third line, maybe second line center that can give you around 30 to 35 points at this point. Still a very solid player, way closer to good in terms of this tier than like meh. Again, it's solid / meh because there's going to be a decent range of players within this tier because there's a couple bad captains. Well, now that Jacob Trouba is gone, there's not as many bad captains, but bad again in terms of playing on the ice. But yeah, Backlund, I think solid / meh. McDavid, you got to go with superstar. No shit here. Best player in the entire NHL. Jordan Eberle, I'm going to go with good. Still like a solid 50-ish point winger. Nothing really special. But yeah, he's like basically a first liner kind of on Seattle on like an actual playoff contender. He'd be more so of a second line guy. But yeah, still a good player. Definitely still a good player. Brady Tkachuk, I think I'm going to stick with elite. I don't think that he's quite a top 30 player in the NHL. He's definitely knocking on the door. This year he's playing very, very good, in line to maybe have the best season of his career. You could maybe sway me on star, but right now I think I'm just going to stick at elite. Dylan Larkin, in my most recent, like in the summer, I think he was like 39, 40. He might slip a couple spots because he hasn't really been producing at that high of a rate to start this season. Really slowed out the gates, has kind of found his footing, but he's definitely still around the point per game two-way center. He's an elite guy, bordering on star. Mark Stone, I defended this guy so much. He was in my top 30 last summer. Came out absolutely firing out of the gates, 21 points in 13 games before he got hurt. Now, thankfully, he's back from injury. Thankfully for my fantasy team, I still think he's a top 30 player in the NHL. No doubt, considering his two-way play, and he kind of shut people up based on his start this season. Radko Gudas, he's perfect at what he does, which is kind of like a second pair defensive defenseman. In terms of, again, the players we're going to talk about in this video, he's definitely on the lower end, doesn't offer a ton offensively. So again, still a very solid player, but nothing special. I think you got to put him in solid slash meh. Rasmus Dahlin having a decently solid season in Buffalo, should be going for around 60-ish points. Still very good both ways. I think you got to put him up in star. Braden Shen, definitely a solid slash meh guy. Still puts up around half a point per game, but his defensive game, he went from being a very good defensive player to being a pretty shit defensive player in the NHL. One of the worst, honestly, defensive forwards in the NHL. Anders Lee. Some people might not know how good Anders Lee is playing right now. I am not biased by putting him in good. This guy has 23 points in 29 games, 12 goals. This is not fluky either. His underlying numbers and just the overall eye test since the Carolina Hurricanes series last spring, he's been exceptional. Like, he is arguably this season worth his $7 million. Do I think the rest of the way he's going to be worth $7 million this season and beyond that? Probably not. But right now, he is playing damn good hockey. And I think he could potentially go for like 50, 55 points this season when it's all said and done. Hedman's playing like a star this season. I think I'm still going to put him in elite, considering last year was so suspect in terms of his defensive numbers and more so of his even strength numbers. Again, right now, he would be top 5 probably for the Norris Trophy right now, but I still think Roman Josi is a better player. Sean Couturier, I'll go with good. He should be around a 50 to 55 point good defensive player. Last year was pretty lackluster. I definitely had him in solid slash mid last year when he only had 38 points and the defensive numbers were just okay. He's been pretty solid on a Philadelphia team this season. Nick Foligno, you definitely got to put him in solid slash mid. He's playing okay. Again, he's around a 35 to 40 point guy, but when you're comparing him to other guys, he is solid slash meh. Nico Hischier started really hot out of the gates. I think I'm just going to put him in elite right now. Again, similarly to a Brady Tkachuk, he's maybe knocking on that door of star, but maybe quite doesn't have that offensive ceiling, although he's great defensively. This is going to catch probably some flack. I'm only going to put Brad Marchand in good. It has kind of been a decline the last 3 to 4 years from Brad Marchand. The offensive production is on pace to be the worst of his career. The defense really hasn't been that impressive for Brad Marchand. Still a very good player. If there was a very good tier, he would definitely be in very good tier. He's definitely better than Lee, Eberle, Lowry. But out of these 5, I think these 5 are well clear of Brad Marchand. I don't think that he's not going to be in my top 50 anymore, I'll tell you that much. Anze Kopitar, though, I'm still going to go with elite. Still great defensively, still putting up very solid point numbers. And he's arguably the best forward on the LA Kings, a team that is absolutely cooking right now. Clayton Keller, also an elite player, around point per game on a Utah, Arizona teams that have not been that impressive. Such a dynamic skater, and the shot that he has is very underrated. Definitely elite. Jamie Benn, good relative to his contract. It's kind of horrible at $9.5 million, but he's a good player. No longer, he had that freak, what was it, 2023 season when he had 76 points. That was obviously kind of a fluke. At this point, he's just a 50-ish point, solid power forward that's getting overpaid. Jared Spurgeon, I'll go with good as well. Brock Faber has definitely assumed the role as number 1 in Minnesota compared to prior years when I think Spurgeon was one of the more underrated players in the entire NHL. But yeah, he's a very, very good number 2 for a team, and that's why Minnesota is or I think they're still tied for first with the Washington Capitals in terms of the President's Trophy. He is a good player. And then Jordan Staal, amazing defensively, but yeah, really offers you nothing nowadays in terms of amazing defensively, doesn't really offer much offensively. And I saved Crosby and Ovechkin for the final part. Crosby, I am still putting in star. He is below point per game right now. I'm aware of that. He doesn't have much to work with. And last year was, especially at the end of last year, was so amazing that I got to give him that respect. Ovechkin, I'm going to put in star as well. When you look at Ovechkin, although I don't think his start this year was that sustainable, when you look at the fact he had 15 goals in 18 games. At the end of last season, he was clicking, at the back half of last season, he was also clicking as like a 50-point guy. So I think it was more so the start of last year was kind of fluky. He's a stud. He was absolutely killing it to start this season. So I think I'm going to go with star for Alexander Ovechkin. But yeah, here's the full tier list. Let me know in the comments. I think I'm going to put Ovechkin like 30-ish in the top 50 at this point. I think he's earned it given his last 12 months for the most part. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about it? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? I'll be seeing you in the next one.